Hi. Yes,
Hi.
yeah, hi, Catherine. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ching-Hua, founder of DigiFashion Forum, and it's my honor to introduce Catherine D. Henry. And she's the award-winning global expert on Web3. And Catherine is the managing principal at EPAM Systems, where she, spearheads the Web3 retail, fashion, and luxury practices. So with over 20 years of experience at the firm, is a renowned thought leader and the best-selling author of the book called Virtual Natives, which explores AI and Gen Alpha, not even Gen Z. So her work has earned her recognition as one of Campaign Magazine's top 40 leaders in US media and tech and Ad Age's top 20 Web3 marketing leaders. Wow. So today, Catherine will share her profound insights on the future of digital fashion. So welcome, Catherine, and then please join me in welcoming her. Hello, Catherine. Nice
Hi.
to meet you here. And thank
Thank
you
you
for
so much. It's
coming.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here to join you today from Paris and to be able to talk to you today. I'd like to, shall I just share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'd like to show you or take you through what some of my thinking recently on the outlook and the landscape for digital fashion is for 2024. And so I want to give you a sense of what's happening in the fashion landscape. This is an excerpt of a report that I did. It's called Fast Tech Intelligence Report. And you can find the full report. It's 75 pages and it's for free and it's on LinkedIn. What I like to do is occasionally run through some of the massive trends that we're seeing and put them together in a deck. The reason I do that is because technology is moving so quickly. It's very hard, especially for busy executives, to follow these trends with any coherence because it takes a lot of time to absorb them and to make sense of them. In other words, there's a lot of information that comes at us, and so it's often very difficult to synthesize that. So that's what I've done with this deck. And so I'm using this to forecast the what the outlook is for 2024 based on some massive trends that we've been seeing in across new technologies. So first, I'd like to go through the state of fashion and retail. Then we're going to look at consumer outlook. And then I'm going to dive a little bit into AI for fashion technology because a lot of people are thinking, how is AI going to transform my industry? And I want to talk about how that does that, not just with consumer facing technology, but across the entire spectrum of the retail and fashion industry. And then I'm going to touch upon the physical and digital fashion. In other words, what is the value of virtual fashion? And finally, the retail. We don't cover too many of the case studies, but just then an executive summary. But you can find all of this online. So the section about consumer demand. Now, I think it's really important to understand the context of the moment that we're in, because 2024, we've seen the first half of the year a lot of pressure on household incomes, which means that most people were struggling with rising prices, and that's especially true in the United States. You will see that the GDP growth in the United States has been slower than that in China. So, for example, in the lower left corner, you'll see that the growth has been roughly 3.3% in the US and about 5.3% in China. And so that has significant impact into consumer demand for clothing. You can see too that the segment is forecast to grow for 3 to 5%, with hard luxury goods being in highest demand. And there's a reason for that. And we're going to get into that in a couple of slides. But here, too, I want to point out that China's economy is facing changes, but the Chinese consumer is generally more optimistic. So both in the in Asia as well as in Europe. Little and we so quite an extraordinary growth rate. we're seeing that the growth, as I said, is going to be, really skewed towards Asia. So this is like the century of Asia. We've already, we've been in it for about, I'd say, 5 to 10 years now. APAC is going to account for 40% of the global luxury market by 2025. So you can really hear the lion roaring from the east, and whereas Gen Alpha together present 40% of Chinese population. So again, so retailers and fashion people globally have to really, keep their eye on what's happening in Asia, because it's really important. And in particular, I want to bring your attention to the Gen Z consumer. And again, this is across Asia, with China being one of the massive markets, where you can see that some 26% are premium shopaholics and 32% are brand conscious followers. And you can see that's true pretty much across, from China, Indonesia, Japan. You can still see that it's roughly 50 to 60% are really, very fashion forward. And Chanel and Dior continue to be the most purchased luxury brands in China. And so when it comes to consumer spend, $59 billion was spent in 2023, and we're expecting that again to rise pretty significantly in just 2 years. So again, looking at the young consumer, 60% are between 18 and 30, and another 26%, between 18 and 20. So if we're looking at this, demographic, it's incredible to think how much the Gen Z, Gen Alpha is dominating this space. We're looking at, nearly 60% are people under 30 years old. That's why I focus so much on that next generation, because, they have the fastest spending growth of any generation in the country. And the takeaway for luxury is that existing high net worth clients are important, but you really have to focus in on this under 30 segment that's coming into their own. They're going to be making the most money in the peak earning years of their lives very soon. And so we want to think about how technology is changing their behaviors, their expectations, and how you can best serve them. So I want to take a moment to look at the consumers. We talk about they're changing because of the economic outlook. And so we're going to have a moment to look at a tale of two wallets. And what I mean is, we've got, on the one hand, two different scenarios. The first is people who are absolutely invincible, because for them, an economic downturn is just another day in the calendar year. Nothing really changes. This is what we call anti-cyclical spending. In other words, whether or not the inflation goes up or down, they're not affected by it because they're really, wealthy. And so it's not going to change their consumption habits. If they buy, the equivalent of 3, Christian Dior shoes or Chanel bags a month, it's not going to necessarily slow down their habits. Whereas for other people, it's really about making do with what you have, reinventing yourself and your wardrobe with new things, or maybe especially going onto secondary markets, which is a really big trend. We're seeing the outlook is that a lot of consumers, especially in the West, are focusing on cyclical fashion. You'll notice that in addition to many top websites reselling goods, we're seeing the emergence of this secondary market come out really strong. And with Web3 especially, it's going to be a very powerful movement. The reason for that we'll get into a little while, but this is a massive trend to watch. So overall, 2024 for a large segment of the consumer, especially the not high net worth, but the massive retail market, the CPG market, is going to be a lot harder and a lot tougher for them going forward. And that's one of the reasons that we're seeing more investment, if you will, in gaming and digital fashion. The reason is that fashion is, something that's primarily about acting out your fantasies and being in a space where you can really, express yourself and try out your identity. And with some 70 million users daily in spaces like Roblox, you'll find that the spend is increasing pretty, heavily. in Roblox, the revenues in just 1 year increased by 40%. So digital purchases are a big deal. And the reason for that is that people get a chance to expose themselves to new fashions, either on Roblox or Fortnite. And this is a place for discovery. So it's not just self-expression. It's like they say that the new streetwear is screenwear. And in a way, it's not just about trying on new things, and it's the illusion of ownership. Whether I buy something with augmented reality or I buy a game skin, it's the illusion of ownership. And so this is where you discover brands, and then in the real life, when you start to spot it, you feel part of that larger movement. So, if it's $5 to buy a Ralph Lauren shirt online, it's obviously a lot cheaper, and there you get a chance to kind of be yourself. And so many kids hang out in these spaces, it makes a lot of sense because for them, virtual is valuable. Virtual is, owning real things. And so we find that a lot of people feel as though their digital copies are twins of themselves. And so increasingly, some Gen Z, Gen A feel that this is a reflection of their own personal style in real life. And so that's one of the things that makes them, buy so many of these. So you will find that 74% of Snapchat users, for example, dress their emoji in brands they own. So they want to make a statement to the world. But equally, if they don't own it yet, then it's kind of the intention to buy. This is a world with which I affiliate myself. Now, turning for a moment to AI, I'm just going to go through some of the top headlines. And of course, you can always go back to my LinkedIn profile. It's under there in the banner and media. You can go through the whole thing and download it yourself. But fashion and technology, AI is really an important tool, and it's going to permeate the entire value chain for fashion. So we're not just talking again about B2C consumer experiences like game. It also can affect the online shopping and customer service experience. So we at EPAM, we're a massive global engineering company. We do data management systems and CRM, and all of this stuff is infused with AI. And so what we do is, and this is one of the trends, of course, for the entire industry, is thinking about how to enhance online shopping and customer service through AI, how to personalize the sales descriptions, how to make sure your customer service experiences are seamless, and to use tools and self-service options to better take care of clients, so they feel as though that experience is seamless, it's easy. Any questions that they have or concerns can be dealt with very quickly. But it also can be used in store. So if with your phone, you should be able to get more information as a customer, but equally as a retailer, you get much more information about foot traffic, the audience, sizing, and also increase conversion while people are in store. So they can do digital try-ons. You can have AI assistants and displays just to help people get around and to find the items that they want. And so these are increasingly becoming available to customers everywhere. And it can also be used to automate training and admin, so that when you've got real-time recommendations and feedback to sales associates, so they can say, prompt a customer or support a customer better, or provide back office support to them. And we're seeing that also with virtual reality too. Virtual reality is a very powerful tool when it comes to training staff in store. Now, AI, we talked about, content generation at scale is a big topic. Obviously, I think probably anybody watching this has tried ChatGPT, Midjourney, or some version of AI for content generation, for pictures, for posts, and it's tremendously powerful. And we can accelerate, therefore, content development and customize it at scale. And what we can also do is have dynamic ads. So one of the things that we've created, we did this Burberry digital store in China. We've also done in Shenzhen, and we've also done, interactive mirrors. We can also help create dynamic ads. So when you walk by a billboard and it senses that you're 18 years old, between somewhere 18 and 25, it's going to show you one ad. Whereas if I walk by and I'm not anywhere near 25 anymore, it will show me a different ad. So we have dynamic advertising as a way of, automating customer segmentation and personalization at scale. Merchandising, that's another form of merchandising that I've just mentioned, the visual ideas, textual description, etc. And also manufacturing, supply chain, and logistics management. And this is really important. You're streamlining supplier negotiations, optimizing automation in warehouses, and also improving inventory management. So if we're struck by something like a pandemic, for example, which God forbid won't happen again, but when there's some unexpected supply chain issue, like there's a war in a certain place and the ships can't go around, we've created systems that are able to dynamically help you manage that so that you can still get your inventory to hit the shop floor when you need it. Now, blockchain is another technology. It's transforming the fashion and retail industry, and it's super important because it's lowering the operational costs by managing data better. And again, a lot of you are thinking, well, this is kind of boring. It's not very fun. But if you're on this side of the industry, it's very important because you can look at the entire supply chain. When things arrive, where they are. You can track, from which factory it's from, straight down to the factory, to the sales floor, so that that whatever you created, especially if it's a luxury item, when it hits the factory floor, that's exactly the group. And if there's any issue with this specific type of garment, let's just say the stitching is off, really badly off, you pretty much know exactly where that batch was created so that you can maybe use a different supplier. So these all sorts of things are going to play out really importantly in the retail industry going forward. And finally, one of the big issues here in Europe is that the fashion and retail industry is focused on sustainability. So there are a number of legislative initiatives coming out that are encouraging companies to really reduce some of the wastefulness in the supply chain so that we don't have that we don't create excess land masses full of clothing that is going to be very detrimental to the planet. So it's one of the things that they're focusing on to create a circular economy. In other words, long-term sustainable goods that are ultimately good for the planet. And so they have required by 2027 that all fashion products have a digital product passport. And there are a number of benefits to that, which means that, like, if I buy a sweater from Prada, that I know that this is a Prada sweater, and I'm going to be able to scan it. So this way it reduces the potential for counterfeit, thereby also protecting the European marketplace, because this way the brands can assure the customer that they're getting what they think they got. So it's got proof of ownership. This means that they're able to sell it. Okay, once you post it on market, people need to know that that is an authentic good. Ownership transfer means that, even if it could be a house, it could be a car with a digital product passport, it's easy to send the keys virtually, so to speak, so that those two people never even have to meet. Same thing when I give that ownership transfer with a digital product passport. If you purchase something online, then automatically you're given the ownership certification so that you know what it is. Also, it assures you of the quality. So if I buy something and it says cashmere sweater, I know it's actually cashmere as opposed to some sort of synthetic blend, which isn't really the value, the thing that I thought I paid for. And sustainability. This way we know that, again, it's quality and it's going to be sustainable over time. And so that goes back to the waste management and ethical production, meaning the circular economy means that things last longer, you cherish them, and when you're done, you can either rent them or you can sell them. And so we're looking at this as a tool for membership and engagement too. So digital product passports are a big thing. And I would keep my eye on that because it would not surprise me that once Europe rolls this out, markets like the US might take it up too. So to wrap it up, I want to talk about some of the 6 trends to watch for the second half of this year and into 2025. The first is creative influence. We have a lot of, we know that influencers are very powerful in influencing brands. And so we have to think about how do we creatively co-opt them to work with our IP in new digital spaces. We talked about the love of virtual goods in games, but what does that mean when your precious IP that you've developed over a very long time is now being sort of recreated and reinvented digitally? How can you let people play with your brand? We talked about the split consumers, meaning like the ones who got lots of money and aren't affected by the economy, and those who are thinking, wow, how else can I wear this sweater? How else can I rework my wardrobe, because they don't want to spend any new money. So we're going to see that for the next year, I would expect, as the economy still continues. We've got high interest rate environment, and even though they say that the jobs are very high, are they really the jobs that are paying people enough money for a living wage with extra money to spend on consumer goods like fashion? I think it's going to be another year before we see things improve, if they do improve. So the outlook is still to see these split type of consumers. AI and mass customization, as companies start to roll out AI across their companies and they start to realize how they should use it and how it can benefit their operations through to their customer relationship management data and software, that's going to be really powerful. Blockchain is something that we do expect for tracking, authentication, sustainability, and more. We'll probably see this more in the ultra luxury, everything from diamonds and certification to watches, and eventually certain luxury goods. Game worlds are just taking off. And the reason is because Gen Alpha lives in these game worlds. For them, this is a reality. Every day, they spend on average 2 to 3 hours, and that's on average in the United States. People are looking at limiting screen time, and that's already a legislation being considered across Europe. In Italy, they just passed a directive limiting screen time for children, just as they have in China. And so France is also now looking at something similar. But listen, whether or not they spend, 1 hour or 6 hours, and hopefully it's closer, somewhere in between, but this is still a world that they feel very comfortable in, and that's why they're active participants in whatever entertainment, and therefore they have a physical presence and avatar in these spaces, and that's why retail, fashion, luxury, inspiration, this is all going to be part of that culture too. And so too is Web3 and loyalty, because expect that people want to affiliate themselves with tribes online, because that's what we do in real life. You have your group of friends, your community, things that you think are really wonderful, and things that you just don't really care for. And so we naturally gravitate towards people with similar sentiments. And so Web3 is another way of creating that sense of loyalty and inclusion into clubs and groups or communities of like-minded individuals. So that's basically it for me. I hope that this was not too fast of an overview. And
Yes.
yeah, happy to take questions.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Catherine, for your insight for sharing, because this report I've read, and then I just studied, and I just saw that it's such a profound research. And then I learned that you've spent like 3 years on this research, and then trying to put everything together, and then to let us to understand much more in depth all these insights. And thank you very much. But now,
Thank you.